Morning. I like that Masood ran out of words there, because that happens to me like every week. And I think it's funny because he can fall back on, well, I know other languages. I do too. I just haven't told you about all the languages I know. I know a bunch of them. But I'm going to talk about stereotypes in a second. Until he said that, this is one I didn't think about, but I really enjoy. Because we have spotlights and a stage and microphones, this can come across as scripted. And it isn't. It's kind of planned and it's prayed for, but it's we do real people on a real journey. The real people are up here too. They're just people who are elevated a little bit so you can see us. If I had my preference, I'd just be down on the floor too, but I'm not that tall. And so that's why we have this. And so I think it's a good thing where we have these stereotypes and then we accidentally, without thinking about it, become the stereotypes. And that's where you go to church and there aren't ever any mistakes. Or we always know what word comes next. I think that can be a problem. And then we have to live into that, and then we add 17 services around it, and then everything's scripted, and I don't know if that's what we're supposed to be. It can become the stereotype. So I like when I'm refreshed, and it'll happen to me, we'll run out of words sometimes. Good. Because we're sinners, and we're flawed, and we're not doing this because we're perfect, or great communicators, or the best musicians in the world. We're just people serving together in a real way. And so I think that's super refreshing. I should have talked about that. Now I don't even want to give my talk. We'll try it anyway. I'll talk about the stereotypes I plan to talk about a little bit. It comes from when I was little, and I liked church, and church was great. I also didn't like it because it was boring and stuff. So it was both at the same time. But there were some things that I associated Christianity with, the church with. And when I thought of church, my mind went to the terrible pink carpet that we had in the church that I was raised in. It was awful, pink. I got rug burns from it, and the rug burns, actually, you couldn't tell the difference where one stopped and the other one began. It was just pink everywhere. And so I thought about that. I also thought about this rigid church librarian. She's probably great, but she was kind of scary and had a lot of rules and had a lot of opinions and would let you know them sometimes. And then I thought about where else my mind went. So I went to all those rules and kind of went to that carpet, and then it went to fear. The church kind of just felt sort of scared of the world. It would quaver over the mention of R-rated movies, or is terrified of sex and mohawks equally. And it plays out in numerous ways, but from these ways we form stereotypes about Christianity. And here are three that I think, aside from the scripted one. One is that it is soft. Soft as that pink carpet. It is for folks that lack bravery, gumption, or talent. The Christians are weak, and so is Christianity. So is the church. Second one, so it's soft, it's safe. It's just cozy little silo away from all the things in this R-rated world. It isn't like the adventure of whitewater rafting. It's sitting in an inner tube on a stagnant pond. And it's just so safe and, bubble wrapped. It's not striking off on adventure. It's growing old and plump both preemptively. It's soft, it's safe. Third one, it's as rigid as that old librarian. Just this bunch of rote policies going around and policing everyone. Well, I think no one ever read Acts 14 to me. Or probably they did and I wasn't paying attention because those stereotypes were blocking it. Or in some places, this is what I mentioned at the beginning, maybe we've actually become the stereotype. That we have let fear twist our faith into becoming some tepid, placid thing. That fear has dammed the rivers of our faith, our mission, and we wonder why we have to squint to see the difference between salvation and damnation. It's why our joy and prayer life and laughter and efforts are shriveled and discontent. Why our biggest church decision is what carpet do we choose? Or something on our to-do list is to speak out against that latest blockbuster film. Acts 14 does something different. It's so fitting that it's the halfway point of this book. It's the halfway point in our series. And what it's going to do is it's going to take those stereotypes and it's going to cast them overboard. And meanwhile, the raft of the first missionary adventure will rollick on into a second one and a third one. What you see in Acts 14 is a call to action, a glimpse at strategy, and a vision for the church. Here's the question. Do you want to read it? All right, one person. See, this is the dream I have for fall. And we probably won't get there fall. It's kind of the dream I had since we went through the book of Mark, that at some point we become a church where it's you get a reputation yeah, they're a little extra. There's kind of an excitable people. And then people will be why are they excited? Why are they so fired up? Why are they so strange? And they come in here, and what they don't see are a bunch of gimmicks, and it's savvy manipulation, not some bot-canned performance. It's just people who are super excited about God's word in a simple way. Or singing. We're just pumped up about that. And then someone would come here and visit and be why are they so excited? And it's nothing special is going on. Oh, something special might be. And they'll actually look to the right places. So I'll try it again. You want to read it? Yes. 74 people. The rest of you got a month to rest up. We'll get there. Okay. Maybe we won't. It's up to God. Chapter 14. At Iconium, Paul and Barnabas went as usual into the Jewish synagogue. We've been hitting on this weeks past. What we're hitting on there is they would go to the Jewish synagogues because it was kind of a shortcut. It was kind of a foothold already. These people already believed the Old Testament. They believed in a God. They believed in transcendence. They believed in Creator. And so you didn't have to give them the whole story. You would eventually, but you could just kind of start with, hey, you remember God, you remember Messiah? Jesus is here. Now let's talk about it. And so that's what they do. Now we're going to see in Acts 14 this strategy like shifting a little bit, which is cool to see. But in 14:1, they go to the synagogue, and there they spoke so effectively that a great number of Jews and Greeks believed. But, verse 2, the Jews who refused to believe stirred up the other Gentiles and poisoned their minds against the brothers. So, Paul and Barnabas spent considerable time there, speaking boldly for the Lord, who confirmed the message of his grace by enabling them to perform signs and wonders. Did you catch it? Two things that don't go together. It's opposites. There's like a linguistic thing that happens there where you're like, wait, that's not how that goes. That's like you go to a place and say, I want a dozen wings. And they say, those are fire. Those are really hot. You're like, make it 2 dozen. Or you go to the theme park. It's like, this roller coaster breaks a lot. Let's ride. Let's get on there. Let's go. That's what goes on right here. A bunch of people turn against them and are saying terrible things about them so they stay a considerable amount of time with those people. That's not what we do, right? That's when they don't want it. They don't want what I've got. They're mean to me at work. They said something against it. I'll just go away. That's not what they do. They lean in even more. This happened to me a few weeks ago. I was driving home, and we have a basketball court that's in our neighborhood, at the corner of our neighborhood. And I drove past the basketball court. It was raining. It was kind of like this morning. It was raining a bit. And there were 3 kids in street clothes practicing their karate moves. They're out there in the rain in jeans, like shadow boxing and stuff. And I was just thinking about it, and I pulled home, and I went in, and I was kind of in a daze, and then it hit me. And I'm like a product of public school. So I told my wife, there's going to be a fight. There's about to be a high school fight. I got to go. She's like, what do you mean you got to go? I was like, I'm needed over there. I got to go. And so I got in my car and I went back. And they're like, well, were you going to break it up? No, I took snacks. I was like sharks and jets. I was just circling. They're like, who is that? There's that creep again. And they're just sitting there doing their thing. They're like, that guy's going by again. He's eating Cheetos. And I just kept driving by, kept driving around. And that's what the picture was. Like, there's going to be trouble. Let's go. That's what it was. So they're given the ability to do signs and do wonders, do these things. And this is interesting because they're given these abilities and then it gets misused. Not by them, but the vision is wrong. It's off. We do this all the time in the Bible. We do this all the time in our world. I'm going to take my boys here, I don't know, in like a month or 2. I don't know what time it is. Some point, I'm going to take my 2 oldest boys to Branson because someone who's a friend who goes to this church has a place we can stay for free. And that's how we operate as a family. Like if you say my aunt's got a bunker in Potosi outside about her trailer, we're going to be there with suitcases. That's how we roll. Free? You had me a free. Let's go. And so we're going to go, and if I come back and show my friend, and I was like, here's a picture, and it's us leaning against the Branson sign, like in our all our poses, and he's like, cool, do you have any more pictures? Like, no. That's it. We kind of came back right after that. Like, wait, did you go to Branson? Yes, I went to Branson. I got the picture. Didn't you see it? And he's like, did you see the giant meatball? Do you see the Titanic with the iceberg? It's kind of weird we make money off that, kind of macabre, but there it is. There's a big iceberg. JFK, the head of JFK is just all around Branson. Every now and then you'll see this huge concrete head of a president. It's JFK. It moves around. I don't know who's taking it. Did you see a bunch of people with Bible verse t-shirts? It's like, no. I showed you the picture. We saw the sign and we came home. We stopped at the sign. It'd be ludicrous. And that's what these people do. That's what people in the Bible do. That's what we do as a people. We stop at the sign. We always have done. Every generation of people have had sun gods. Get that? They dismiss the Son of God, but they all have gods of the sun. I remember my algebra teacher in high school had a poster in her room that said, shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. She didn't shoot nearly high enough. We have that. People who are into astrology, and they've got a sign and all these zodiac things, and this is where I go for my comfort, this is where I go for my direction, this is where I go for my future. It's like, they shot for the moon, and they landed in the stars with their gods. And it's like, what this is telling us is our gaze is not nearly high enough. That we need to overshoot the sun, the moon, the stars to get to the God who made the sun, the moon, the stars. It's God's Son. Set your gaze higher. And we're going to see how that plays out. But first, verses 4 and 5. They go back in. They're speaking boldly. Verse 4. The people of the city were divided. Some sided with the Jews, others with the apostles. There was a plot afoot among both Gentiles and Jews, together with their leaders, to mistreat them. They're like, okay, yeah, call us names. That's fine. We'll persevere. And stone them. It's like things really escalated. Brick has a trident. All of a sudden, they want to kill you. They want to throw rocks at you until you are dead. What is that? Like, mistreat we can handle. Now they want to kill us. It's the real deal. So when you think about, is Christianity safe? It's like, no, there's a murder plot afoot. Here's what happened. An informant came and told the guys, hey, they want to kill you. And then the authorities like kick in the door and they go in, they go, we're looking for Paul and Barnabas. And Paul and Barnabas are gone. They fled, but the food's still warm. Like they just left. And it's like, if this was a movie, it would be an action movie. That's what's going on. It's not like a safe, like sort of Lifetime drama type of thing. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's not what this is. This is them running for their lives. It's exciting. All right? So they leave because these people are going to throw rocks. It says they fled. And then verse 7, another one that doesn't make sense, where they continue to preach the gospel. If there was ever a time for a day off, they've arrived there. Like, let's give it a rest, okay? They continued to preach. They act like A, they actually believe this stuff, or B, like it actually matters. Like my sons, they want to get really good at soccer or basketball. I can't remember which, because they don't do anything. They just say they want to be good, but they don't actually do anything. Like the other day, I already told you how we operate. If it's cheap or free, we're in. So someone had took a basketball goal and taken it out of the ground and laid it in front of their house and then put a sign that said $75. We're like, $75, these are usually like $1,000. We'll do it. We don't even know if we need it. We don't even know if we can get it in the ground, but it's cheap. And so I got a church friend. We load it up in a truck, and we drive it to my house, and my kids are outside. We're like, surprise, we got you a basketball goal. And they were so excited. And here's how excited they are. It's been underneath our house for 3 weeks, and they have not mentioned it yet. They're just little cherubs. It's like, no, I'll get hot breath on my face at 2 a.m. Can we go to the pool? They do not care about this goal. They don't ask when it's going in. They don't wonder why it's under our house. So I don't find them playing and seesawing on it. Here's my bet. I bet I could disappear that goal, not in the Woodcrest dumpster. I have boundaries. I bet I could disappear that goal and they wouldn't even know. Now, if we disappeared your church, would you? Your church community? Your Bible? Your prayer life? Would you notice? Would anyone notice? Like what we get here with Paul, if Paul ever says, not going to gospel today, I gospeled yesterday, I gospeled the day before that, I did the back 9 gospel the day before, I think I'm going to take the day off gospeling today. You know what Barnabas would do? He's like, we got to get Dr. Luke. That's probably how Luke got on the missionary journeys to begin with, just to check Paul's vitals and try and slow him down. Like, that would not be a normative behavior. He's going to gospel every day. What if there's some kind of alarm system in heaven? That would be interesting. There's an alarm system in heaven, like a missing person. It's like an Amber Alert that goes on to all the angelic cell phones, mobile devices. And it goes off every time, like, we haven't heard from Matt this week. Like, Matt, he's a regular. It's been a week. We got to find him. Would it be a week for you? What about a day? The lives we want, it'd be an hour. Like, we haven't heard from him in an hour. Something's up. Because that guy is faithful. That gal is faithful. What do you really think of Jesus? We'll know by your actions, or probably more accurately, by your inaction. They continued, and we should as well. We should continue. And so what happens? They flee to a surrounding area, Lystra and Derbe, and there they see a man who is lame, a guy who cannot walk. And Paul heals him. He heals a guy. He heals a guy who cannot walk, tells him to get up and walk, and the guy actually jumps, and someone's like, his legs would be withered. It's like, if you can make a paralyzed guy walk, you can make his muscles work. It's so weird how we're skeptical about some things, and it's like, in our skepticism, in our intelligence, we can become dumb. The God who can raise a man to life can also make his legs work. It's a 2 for 1. He's not going to raise you to life, and you're going to tip over and be like, oh, God forgot the muscles. He's going to make the joints work. He's going to do that. If he can do the one thing, he can do the other. The second thing's easier. Okay? It's a weird skepticism that happens. But Paul heals a guy. You know who else healed a lame guy? Jesus. You know who else? You remember from Acts? Peter. And now Paul does. So when Jesus heals the lame guy, again, it's a sign pointing to something else. He's going to forgive sins, but then he's going to show he can forgive sins by making a guy get up and walk. What he's doing is he's saying, I'm the Messiah, and they're like, prove it. Get up and walk, dude. Guy gets up and walks. Any questions? And now, Peter is going to the Jews. He's going to the Jews to say, hey, we have an apostolic message. We have a Savior in Jesus. I'm going and proclaiming it. They're like, prove it. Goes to a lame guy, says, get up. Dude gets up, skips away. And now Paul is going to the Gentiles. You see they get the same treatment? There's equality in there. That he goes to a lame guy and he says, get up. We see this all throughout the Bible, though. These signs are all over the place, but they always point beyond. Like Moses goes to Pharaoh and says, let my people go. And then he says, want to see a magic trick? And he does all these crazy magic tricks over here. It's going on. And you God? And he's like, no, but I slept in a Holiday Inn Express. That's what he says. They say, are you God? And he says, no, but I know him. It's like Buddy the Elf. I know him. I'm his ambassador. I'm doing these things through him, and he's doing these things through me. That's how it's working. But instead, we get captivated by the sign. And that's what happens here. He heals this guy, and they marvel at the sign. They fixate on the sign. They worship the sign. We see it in 11. When the crowd saw that Paul had done, they shouted in the Iconian language, the gods have come down to us in human form. Barnabas they called Zeus, and Paul they called Hermes because he was the chief speaker. The priest of Zeus, whose temple was just outside the city, brought bulls and wreaths to the city gates because he and the crowd wanted to offer sacrifices to them. Reminds you of that scene in Star Wars? Where's the bear people make the robot dork, the god? You guys remember this? Star Wars people are so mad right now. I know it's Endor. I know it's the Ewoks. I'm one of you, Darth Nerd. Back off, okay? It's Star Wars, though. You guys know the scene. The robot is made C-3PO, and they're bowing to him, and Luke Skywalker makes him fly around. They'll do anything he wants at that point because he's gold, and he's glimmering, and he becomes God. And that's what we do. We're looking for this God, and then we find, like, the robot who says what we want it to say, and it's like, okay, or looks golden enough. Okay, we'll anoint that as God. It's just a bunch of wires under there, but we'll make it God. I think what this shows is we want to worship. These people in Acts 14, they want to worship, that we are eternal spiritual beings. We can't escape it. Here's the problem. We just have terrible aim. We just have bad aim. One of the times my son did work on his basketball, one of the reasons why we wanted to get this goal is because I want to be good at basketball. He put on this little basketball jersey, and we let him ride his bike up to that basketball goal. He probably had to say, I got next to the teenagers doing karate. Like, get out of here, you guys. When you're done with your fight, I'm going to shoot some hoops. We set an alarm for him. He got to ride his bike there. At 38 minutes, he'd come home. I don't know why 38 minutes. I don't know, just to mess with him, I guess. But 38 minutes, he shot hoops. He came home after 38 minutes. He's all sweaty. First thing he says to me, I made one. Some people are laughing. Others of you have never played basketball. You shouldn't take 38 minutes to make one. Dude's got some bad aim, all right? And this is just another missed jumper here. And we do this all the time as a people and as people. We've done it societally with science. Science will say something. Actually, science doesn't say anything. We discover something, and it's science. And then we're like bowing down to science. Science is great. Science is wonderful. It's not very good God. Science is just a revealer of something that God has done, a mystery that God has made plain to us. Religion, we do this. I remember about 10 years ago, there was a craze, and this craze comes up every about 10 years, so we should probably do. But there's a craze on the mindfulness. And I'm not saying mindfulness is necessarily bad, but there's this mindfulness craze, and I'm in company culture, so I was looking at all these different company cultures, and company cultures everywhere were getting mindfulness apps and doing Zen together and saying together and crossing their legs and doing chants together and having parts of their building turned into mindfulness studios. And all this stuff was happening. It was like all the rage that everyone wanted this thing and bowing down to it, yoga posing down to it. And it's not completely gone away, but it was the zeitgeist for a minute because we love this stuff. We love anointing it. Philosophy is another big one. Just ideas. Whoever's got the best idea right now. Someone who says something in a compelling way from a stage and it's like that person, they're the next person, they're it. Until the next one comes along, and then the next one, the next one. We actually see that in Acts 17. We're going to get there in a bit, but in Acts 17, it's a really good chapter to read alongside 14 because of different strategies with different people groups who are far from God, but the things that they elevate as God. And in chapter 17, they elevate philosophy. Like throughout the New Testament, the Jews have a hard time coming to Jesus because of their religious structures. They're too religious for what Jesus is offering them. They don't want to unmake some of their religion. They don't want to redo some of their religion. The folks in Acts 14 are the spiritual ones. You all have a spiritual friend? Well, I'm just spiritual. They got like crystals in their pocket. They got a Ouija board under one arm, a Bible in the other. They got a cross. They're going to see Tom Cruise at the Scientology talk. Like they have all the things. They have gods for everything. You tell them a problem. He's like, I got a podcast for that. I got a God thing for that. I got an answer for that. They have solutions from all over the place coming. They're just spiritual. These are those folks in Acts 14. They're spiritual. Acts 17, we have philosophers. They go up a high hill and they have debates, and whoever wins the debate wins the day. And then they'll have a new debate the next day, and the next day, and the next day. It's all about ideas. And so these are the things that are at play here. And in Acts 14, these spiritual people, they're making them gods. And this is how they respond to being made gods, Paul and Barnabas. When the apostles, Barnabas and Paul, heard of this, they tore their clothes. In their culture, what that means, it's a way of non-verbally saying blasphemy because you can't even say it. It's so odious. What's going on here?
They tear their clothes and rushed out into the crowd shouting, "Friends, why are you doing this? We too are only humans like you. We're bringing good news, telling you to turn from these worthless things to the living God who made the heavens and the earth and the sea and everything in it." What I love about this is they don't want to be God. Isn't that wonderful? You want a stereotype thing that has become true, I think, in some ways, that always is becoming true? It's a church issue, a real church issue. I love to preach about idolatry. I will come up here anytime you want me to preach about idolatry. Preaching against idolatry is great. I'm against making people gods until people begin making me one. And I'll be like, come on, stop it, guys. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, you're doing a really good job. We're going to get you your own little private security detail that follows you around town, and be like, seems overkill. That seems a little excessive. That thing's okay. Where are they going to pick me up? Will they drive me? Can I get out of the back seat? Like, we'll do this. All of a sudden, you can frost. I don't have many tips, but you can frost them. I'll get my own parking spot. Let's do that. Brand me. Don't brand other people. That's idolatry. But me, I'm a little bit different, so you can do that with me. Don't you see this all over the place that we'll do that? You want to find rot in a church, watch folks become petty little deities because they can string some sentences together, or because they can sing some notes, or because they have a full parking lot. Here's what I like to remind myself. It's good for us to remind ourselves of this, that every time I speak, every time we meet, 8 billion people choose not to show up. They don't come. I had someone here apologize to me once when I first started speaking here. I said, sorry, the crowd's a little small. I'm like, what size crowd would I be content with my wicked heart? You give me 100 people, you know what I want? 200. Give me 200, I want 500. You give me 1,000, I want to be 2,000. You get 2,000, I want 4,000. You get 4,000, I want to be the biggest church in town. Give me 6. You get 6, we could get to 10 if we push. We get to 10, it's like, let's be the biggest one in the nation. What's Osteen got? And we'll just start comparing. It's always going to track up. That's what we do because we're wicked at the heart. We've got too many folks who spend their whole lives building platforms, and then they turn those platforms into altars to replace God. Paul and Barnabas aren't going to do that. They could have accepted here the adoration of the people, and it probably would have been nice. Remember what just happened? People wanted to kill them. And now they come to another town where they don't want to kill them. They just want to applaud them to death. And it might be time for a little payout. If all of a sudden they say, you're gods, we want to sacrifice to you. If you take the hat off and say, let's pass it, they're going to come up with a pretty good take. They're trying to fund their mission. It's not a bad idea. Let's take a little bit. Or here's this, they're single dudes. They're in a foreign town. There's some good-looking ladies. Like, we can slide into their DMs, right? We can have a little bit of pleasure on the side. No one will know. It's not that big a deal. Here's one. If we accept lordship from these people, they're not going to throw rocks at us. And we might be able to get like 10 or 15 of their strongest who like are our security detail and follow us around. And when we go in other cities, they won't throw rocks at us either because we got this crew. We got this God squad now we'll surround ourselves with. Yes, we'll just take a little bit of your idolatry because we can leverage it towards good. You see how it happens? They can say, well, we've worked hard. We've worked harder than most. Most of our guys are back in Jerusalem still. We are in the sticks. We've forsaken so much. We're not earning any money for this. We're getting kicked around. People are trying to kill us. What if we just, and you see how it happens? Same way it happens for all of us. These little justifications, these little rationalizations. And it just shows how easy it is to sit on the throne. And unless we seat the rightful king on that throne, it's always and forever going to be a throne of lies. It continues whispering to us. I bet this too about Paul and Barnabas. These people come out and say, you're gods, we want to bow to you, you're Zeus and Hermes, whatever. I bet it was easier to stay solid together, right? Their community helped keep them solid because they knew each other intimately. So when someone's like, you're a god, Barnabas is like, him? He is egregious after he eats Taco Bell. I had the bottom bunk. He is egregious. He smells terrible. You think Paul's pretty smart? Sometimes around the campfire, we just talk about stuff. He says some stupid stuff. Like they know each other that intimately. One's not going to let the other one be a god because they know each other. You see the importance of plurality in leadership? Or the importance of community in our circles? We got to know each other. I have some friends who will call me out if I start becoming something I am not. Or start thinking I'm something I am not. Or start climbing onto that throne. I have some people who know me intimately enough to be like, stop it. Do you remember this? And all of a sudden, I was like, oh yeah. I was looking in a funhouse mirror that somehow made me look better. I need to know who I am. We can know who we are if we know each other. We'll go to 15. Again, we just looked at it a bit, but it says, friends, why are you doing this? We too are only human like you. We're bringing you good news, telling you to turn from these worthless things to the living God who made the heavens and the earth and the seas and everything in them. See what they're doing here? It's kind of a new style of thing they're doing, but they say, you are human, we are human. It makes us equal. We're the same. We're not gods and you're not gods. None of us are gods. We're human. I have this conversation with my boys right now because they're starting to go to school and stuff. And what I'm telling them is when someone chants your name, it doesn't mean you do it. When someone tells you to do something, it doesn't mean you do it. The little kids in your class are little kids in your class. They are your peers. They have no lordship over you. If you want to do a thing, do it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But don't let them talk you into it. They're your equals. I am not your equal. Dignity, yes, but I'm your authority. You have to do what I say as long as it's not sin. You don't have to do what your little kid in your class tells you to do. That's kind of what they're doing. They're leveling the playing field. We're all of us equals. We are equals in the same position. We are sub-rulers. We are creations together. And then he says, these things that you're following, these are just things. They're not actually gods. He goes and takes them and breaks them over his knee. They're not gods, they're just things. That's all they are. So what he's doing is he's identifying the author. There's an author behind the story of everything, there's an author. That's the author, these are not the author. And then he says, turn from blank. In this case, turn from Zeus, turn from Hermes, turn from your gods, turn from your idolatry. And all of us have something that goes in that blank. Turn from blank. What goes in your blank? I bet all of us could think of something. And I bet it doesn't matter. Because here's the issue. We're already good at that. I think we're really good at turning from stuff. Culturally speaking, that's like our thing. We're flavor of the week. We have a fad a minute. That's why we do Gangnam style to Stanley thermoses. Remember that 1 month everyone on earth had to have a Stanley thermos? And now it's like, when was that? I don't remember. Do you remember Gangnam style? I bet if we polled everyone in here, it's 10 of us can come up with the author, whoever wrote that song, whoever sang it. Someone said it. Good job. But these fads, they come and they're everything, and then they're gone. And we just flip it. How many of you have a podcast you don't listen to anymore? I used to listen to every episode. I never missed one. Now I moved on to this podcast because it's better. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that's what we do. We're good at turning from stuff. We're always doing it. It's just spiritual transference. Some of us have done this. We found that alcohol made a bad God at some point in our life, right? God, it became our God. It demanded things from us. We had to give it penance. We had to pay it. We had to do all these things. We had to grovel before it. It became our God, and so we eradicated it. And instead, we became fitness fanatics. We're like, wait, fitness isn't bad. It's not, but it's a bad God. Alcohol is not bad either. It's a bad God. Here's the thing about fitness. Let's think about it right now. Do you feel shame when you miss the workout? That means your morality is tied up in it. Do you think about your workout regularly? Even now, we are fasting. We talked about this a week ago or so. We're fasting from the outside world. We're not bringing our work in here. We're not bringing our food in here. We're not bringing our stuff in here. We're fasting from everything else. We could focus on God. But you're sitting there thinking I'm going to get more reps today. I'm a PR. I'm going to run a little bit faster. I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. Whatever it is. Here's one. Do you spend money on your workouts? A lot of money. You follow the money, you'll follow the heart. Again, I'm not saying any of that's bad. I'm saying what happens when that becomes the sun which your world revolves around. You've turned from alcohol. You haven't turned to so well. I once quit drinking soda. I'm a soda fiend. I drink so much soda. I don't go to the dentist because they shame you if you drink a bunch of soda. I went to the dentist once this decade. It was Dr. Willie. Is Dr. Willie even here? Oh, yeah, he is. Sorry, I didn't mean to call you out. I was kind of hoping you wouldn't be here. I think a really good dentist, I don't know anything about dentistry, he might be terrible, but it feels like a really good dentist, really nice guy. I opened my mouth for him. I don't know if he remembers, whoa. He said, you're rough on these babies. I was yeah, and then I took another swig of Coke. It's that's why I avoid people like that at all costs. You don't want to go. You don't want to go to the dentist. So I quit drinking the soda. I turned from that, and then I turned to hard drugs. I didn't turn from hard drugs. That's a joke to see if anyone's awake. I didn't do that. I told my wife, I was let's get some juice. Let's get our juice on. Let's get some juice. We ordered some juice. And I had this juice. It was the most vibrant orange you've ever seen. And I took swigs, and I was this juice is pretty good. I took it, and I started jittering right away, and then I ran a 3-minute mile. And then we checked the ingredients. We're this juice is worse than soda. I went back to the doctor, Pepper. I went back to Cherry Coke. I was I'm not going to do one vice. This vice is just about, I just took the vice that I love, okay? See, I turned from soda, but I turned to something that was just as bad or worse. Something that still was doing the bad things to my teeth and my body and everything else. This is why he says you have to turn from your gods, and he doesn't leave a vacuum. And he says you turn to the living God. It is the one thing, the one relationship that cannot let you down and cannot be taken from you. And notice too, in this message, it shows that this is nimble, because this is a different style of preaching than they have done so far in the book of Acts. I think it's been done maybe once. 9 times out of 10, they've done it one way. And then he saunters up to these folks. The message has always been Abraham, and then Moses, and then the prophets. And that was Jesus. That all pointed to Jesus. Jesus is the one they were all talking about. This time, it shifts through God, creation, transcendence, that he created a thing. He's not a part of his creation. He's separate from his creation, but he entered into his creation, Jesus. That's the good news part. He's shifting it. He's altering the message, not the meaning of the message. God doesn't change. The gospel doesn't change, but it is multifaceted, and God is multifaceted. And that means the tactics can be fluid. That Paul is willing to meet a group of people where they are. He doesn't go to an illiterate people and start dropping $10 theological words. He smuggles it in. He bakes it down. He gets on their level. He meets them where they are. There are many ways to navigate this river of faith, but it flows in one direction. God's river flows in one direction. It's going to go. You can't change the direction, but based on timing and tide and position, you can employ different decisions. That we don't have to be legalists about everything. There are things to protect and make sacred, and then there are things to grant freedom on. The church historically hasn't been great at the second part, the granting of freedom. Here we see freedom for Paul to express this in a way that makes sense to these people. 16 and 17. In the past, he led all nations. This is God. He's given as part of his message. So God made everything, and he says this. He doesn't even say where in the past. I'm going to show you where in the past. But he says, in the past, he let all nations go their own way. He doesn't say where because they don't read the Bible. They've never read it. They don't know anything. So he doesn't need to do chapter and verse here. In the past, he let all nations go their own way, yet he has not left himself without testimony. He has shown kindness by giving you rain from heaven and crops in their seasons. He provides you with plenty of food and fills your hearts with joy. Even with these words, they had difficulty keeping the crowd from sacrificing to them. So what is he talking about? What is it? How does he put it again? In the past, he let all nations go their own way. This is what he's talking about, one part of what he's talking about. Back in Genesis 8, way back towards the beginning. Genesis 1, God creates the heavens and the earth. Genesis 2, he kind of arranges everything, special relationship with man. Genesis 3, everything falls. Genesis 4, Cain kills Abel. 5 and 6, things are really bad. 7, the reaction to it being really bad, a global flood, or a regional flood, depending on your belief. But a flood, all right? A huge flood happens. And then we get to 8, flood subsides, waters go away, dry land, and this is what happens. Noah came out of the ark, 18, together with his sons, his wife's sons and his sons' wives, all the animals and all the creatures that moved along the ground and all the birds, everything that moves on land came out of the ark, one after another. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and taking some of all the clean animals and clean birds, he sacrificed burnt offerings on it. The Lord smelled the pleasing aroma and said in his heart, never again will I curse the ground. Because of humans, even though every inclination of the human heart is evil from childhood, never again will I destroy all living creatures as I've done. And then there's like a little poem. It says, as long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night will never cease. So what happened? Noah came out. He came out of the ark, and with him, what did he bring? Worship. He made an altar, and he did sacrifice. And the sacrifice is said to be a pleasing aroma, a fragrant aroma to God. Do you know who else is called a pleasing aroma, a fragrant aroma to God? Jesus. That's how Paul puts it. That sacrifice of Jesus is a fragrant aroma to the Lord. So there's a beautiful symmetry that's going on here, and if you're not there yet, we're going to get there. Also out of the ark came worship, also come his sons. And with his son comes sin and rebellion, more debauchery. It's like I did a thing, the show, don't do a thing, and then afterwards, like my kids, I punish them, and then they keep doing the same behaviors. It happens. The punishment happens, the same behaviors happen. Humanity comes out with all their sin. So you fast forward just a couple of chapters, and you get Genesis 11, which is people building a city so they wouldn't need God because they can do it all themselves. And God ends up confusing their language so they'd have to separate in some ways, and it's called Babel, confusion. And that's where we get Babylon, which in the biblical picture is the city of man, the city of darkness, the city that rebels from God, Babylon. But notice, they're scattered, they're not destroyed, because he keeps his promise. And then he takes one of those nations, all these nations are born, he takes one of the nations, and he says to the guy, I'm going to make a nation out of you. your descendants are going to outnumber the stars, and from your descendants, all the world will be blessed. Who's that guy's chief descendant? It's a guy by the name of Jesus. So what happens? These nations are still sinning. They're still doing their own thing. They're building their own governments. They're bowing down to their own gods. And they are met with, Old Testament, patience. That's why it's so crazy when people are like, God's so mad in the Old Testament. Yeah, at Israel. These other nations, often it's just patience and patience and patience. And then it's not just patience. You know what else it is? Goodness and goodness and goodness. I will give you an earth. It's fine tuning, right? We have this earth. We can breathe right now. Everyone take a breath. Everyone let it out. Raise your hand if you're dead. Right? It worked. That breath worked. He gave us this world that has this air that works, and then he gives us harvest and food. Ever since the beginning, he's given us harvest and food. He gives us cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night. And then fueled by that protection, fueled by that provision, here's what the people do. They worship crops and suns and each other. Do you understand what an affront this would be to a holy God who's transcendent, who's daily giving you grace and mercy? And not only grace and mercy, here's a Christmas present. Here's food, 3 square meals a day, and you use that to fuel your body with the energy in order to give God the middle finger better. How offensive is this to God? And then you start to wonder, does God even care about sin? Is God that weak that he just let this go? Like someone was walking all over me. You know what the advice many of you give me? Like, stand up for yourself. Stop taking that. We want to say that to God in some ways. We don't actually, because of what it would mean for us. But the question becomes a theological question. This is what Paul's getting to. How can we balance patience and power, mercy and justice? A few pages over from Acts 14 is Acts 17. And this is what he says in 17:30. Same thing. In the past, what past? Way back, ark and onward. In the past, God overlooked such ignorance. But now, something's changed. But now he commands all people everywhere to repent. Well, what changed? Read on, 31. He set a day when he will judge the world with justice by the man he has appointed. He has given proof of this to everyone by raising him from the dead. Jesus. In Jesus, he fulfilled all things. In Jesus, he accomplished divine justice. In Jesus, he redeemed the world. In Jesus, he rescued sinners. So the world was saved and spared through Noah, through one man, and a promise was made. And in Jesus, that promise is fulfilled, and the world is saved. He's the new man. He's also the new ark. That's what's going on with these people. That's what's going on with you today. That's what's going on in this ends of the earth stage of ministry. What they're saying is, in other words, it's time. And then there's a shout, all aboard. Who's coming? Do you have passage on to this ark? It's available. The invite's sent. It's been clear that the invite is sent. Are you coming? All aboard. That God overlooked the nations because it wasn't time. With Jesus, the clock is set, and now it's time. A different phase, and Paul here is inviting them into this sweet new phase. And it's a compelling argument, and it's a good argument that God is love and mercy and kindness and patience, and he's been feeding you all these years to come to this moment where spiritually he can feed you forever. And what's the response? You know what the response is. The response is death. Verse 19. Then some of the Jews came from Antioch and Iconium and won the crowd over. Paul gives this heartfelt sermon after almost getting killed. He's like the real deal. And then someone goes like, makes a raspberry noise and gives a thumb down. They're like, yeah, thumbs down. They're over it. They don't want any part of it. That's all it took. There's no God but us, is what they say. You know what those Jews, I think, came and told these people? It's like a Fiddler on the Roof. I always think that's a funny title. It's like, hey, you got a fiddler on the roof. Yeah, we called the city. It'll be gone soon. But the fiddler's up on the roof, and one of the famous songs of Fiddler on the Roof goes this way, tradition. And then it's like, tradition. It's all about tradition. And what they were telling them is he came to our city and he said all this stuff. And you know what he said? That the temple resides in every human. So what are we supposed to do with our synagogue? He said that everyone's a minister. What does that do with us? He said we have a new high priest. What does that do to our system, our high priest? He said this high priest is Jesus, so we're out of work. He's going to do the same thing through you. You got a merchandise station for Zeus. You're selling Zeus bracelets. That's over. Hermes, you got the school for rhetoric for young kids, School of Hermes. That'll be shut down. You have to change the name. You have to rebrand that. He's going to tear up your economy. He's going to take your jobs. He's going to take your system. And so their response is pretty straightforward, the same response that we usually have. They stoned Paul and dragged him outside the city, thinking he was dead. They kill him. They kill him. Verse 20. But after the disciples, so they're disciples, that means some people followed. They didn't all go against it. Some people got in the ark. Isn't that something? Some people made the choice. They got in the ark. How many disciples do you think he had? Here's my thought. I don't know this for sure. I think he had the number of disciples that he had bruises from the rocks hitting him. I think later he looks at his scars. He's like, yeah, I named that one Joshua, and this one Simeon. That's Ed. There's Jesse right there. All of them worth it. What does Peter say of Jesus? By his wounds we are healed. And Paul's living that out. And this is crazy. The disciples are gathered around him, and he's dead. Check his pulse. No pulse. Oh, he's dead. And they say a prayer or two. Thank you for Paul and his ministry. And he just gets up. He stands up. They gathered around him, and he got up. Craziest part in the text right here. And went back into the city. Dude, they just killed you. He's like, kill me once, shame on you. Kill me twice. I don't even know how that saying would go. He cracks his knuckles and say, we got next. Get out of here, Taekwondo kids. We're ready to roll. They just killed him, and he wants to run it back. This is Elijah staring down the king. This is Daniel staying the course and praying, even if it means the lion's den. This is Moses not stuttering when he says, let my people go. This is David approaching a giant that no one else wants a piece of. This is Ruth ruthlessly clinging to her mother-in-law. That Christianity has some dogs. The carpet isn't pink, it's red with bloodstains. That's why Paul says, imitate me as I imitate Christ. And what did that founder of our faith do? He took the ultimate punch, and then he got up, cracked his back, stretched, and said, let's finish the job. Let's take this thing to the ends of the earth. I'm the ark, and we need to get more people on. If your Christian faith is soft, you may not be what you think you are. The love is tender, but it isn't soft. It goes the extra mile. Everyone else stops running. It keeps going. I'll go one more mile. It turns the other cheek, which is way harder than taking the first swing. It hungers, it thirsts, it won't back down, it faces giants, it weeps with passion, it persists, it contends, it continues, it asks, it seeks, it knocks. It's not soft. It's also not safe. It is a stranger, an alien outpost, an advanced mission in the territory of an enemy. It's hard pressed on every side, but not crushed. It's perplexed, but not driven to despair. It's persecuted, not forsaken. It's struck down, not destroyed. If you want to grow a church in size and depth, get gritty and take some risk for the mission. And finally, it's not rigid. That the faith is flexible. It tells the good news in vibrant ways, hope for all in mind. It avoids cliches. It's tactical and aware and winsome. This is a picture of church, an advanced kingdom outpost. There's a famous missionary, and he said this: expect great things from God, attempt great things for God. We're going to have the band come back on. I want to finish the chapter. I'm not going to read it. I'll just paraphrase it. But we'll get the band going. We'll do one song here in a second, which means I'm almost done. What happens the rest of the chapter is this. They continue on in mission. And then they return to all the places where they had planted these churches and these believers, and they disciple them. How's it going? What are you learning? How's your prayer life? Oh, you're reading Isaiah. Okay, let's talk about Isaiah. How are we feeling about it? They do discipleship. And they organize. It says they name elders. In each of these places, they're not trying to be bishops who lord over everyone. They're trying to get localized leadership in the context to lead the place. They establish elders, people who will govern and lead the local church. And then they share. They come back home to their sending church in Antioch, and they share what happened to them in their journeys. We go on mission, and then we retreat together, gathering strength before going back out. I want to look at two of the verses. 14:27 says this. On arriving there in Antioch, the church that sent them, they gathered the church together and reported all that God had done through them and how he had opened a door of faith to the Gentiles. You hear that? They acted through God. God acted through them. That God wills us to choose, that God opens the door. And now we get to walk through it, the door to missions or the door to faith, the door to the ark, it's open. It sounds a lot like that quote, attempt great things from God, expect great things from him. He's gone before us, but now we got to choose to go with him. And when we go with him, he goes behind us as well. They act through God, yet God acts through them. And then 28 is this beautiful picture. And they stayed there a long time with the disciples. They rest. That's how the first half of Acts ends, with this pause, with this rest. They get ready to launch out for more. And that's what we're going to do too. On the book of Acts, we're going to take a rest right here, but it's not for long, Lord willing. We are going to ready our hearts for what God has next in this adventure. That he has a second missionary journey and a third one. And then he has this one that we don't even get to read about. It goes on after the book. It's what we're doing now. It's our mission. We get to see throughout the rest of Acts, what are they going to be? What are they going to do, this early church movement? And then we get to ask the same of us, what are we going to be? What are we going to do? So we'll take a rest, we'll take a breath, we'll July well, or whatever time it looks like, and then we're going to dive right back in. We're going to hear some other things and explore some things and get filled up, and then we're going to be ready to go, right back on mission, joining the early church. Let me pray with you. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this story. We thank you for your promise that you're a promise maker and a promise keeper. That you have sustained the earth, even for us, rebels. And then instead of smashing everything, flooding everything, putting everything on fire, just ending the whole thing and trying to experiment elsewhere, he said, while we were yet sinners, you died for us. And that changes the time. To where one man got to enter the ark with his family, now the door's open. The ark of Jesus is open for anyone. As the waters raise, we have salvation. And then when the waters subside, we have new heaven, new earth, a new mission to build and make, dream and see along with our founder, along with our Father. We sang it earlier, you're a good, good Father. And a good, good Father says, hey, I'm going on an adventure. You want to come with me? Will we go? Thank you, Lord, for this time. Thank you for these people, their patience, their listening. I pray you'd move in us. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.